Mic on. Hello, everyone. Forgive us for being late. I put the show at 10:30, but there was traffic and the snow in England isn't great. Oh dear. All right. So we'll just quickly do my intro and get the other stuff out of the way. Let me see if I can. I'll try to give you a quick show. Good thing is this stuff is recorded. So um, let me see. So we're going to start at 10:30, but sadly it was a bit of a traffic and all the rest of it. So let's see if I can get a fantastic show on the way. Give me some time to find the videos. Where are you? The show's 118th show. That's right. Let's open these things. So please ignore these when you see them. I'm just gonna open the videos we're gonna have for today. Oh, that's one. Oh, does it come up? It does come up. One, and this is two. We're gonna break this down in a minute. Not to worry.
Twitter suppression of some kind in recent years.
Hold on, mate. Stop. Hold on. Why are you getting the same one many times? No, we don't want that. Remove that, please. Remove. Unless I bounce it down twice. Did I do that? That would be silly. 1, 2. What about this one? What's this? Hold on. Yeah, that's a good one. There you go. Found it. Right, cool. Greetings, Sister Shirays.
Given that slavery in America is part.
Now, what I'm going to do, I'm just going to quickly find my PDF. Yes, PDF projects, PDF. Hope you guys are ready for a nice, cool show. Start slightly later than normal, but to be honest, a lot of people tend to go on longer nowadays anyway, so not too bad. So where are we? We're looking for the PDF of the Black Bear broadcast. Where are we at? PDF design, fantastic. And then show 18. Now let's open it, see where. Oh, that's not the one, is it? Okay, is that not the one? No, we want the shows, of course. That's what we want. There we go. PDF. Show 8 one. Yes, found it. How good is that? All right, now we'll have to add to the stream, and we're nice. I also have to make sure I can give the link to have people come in. Missed you guys also. Share screen. Yeah, that's the one. And here it is. I found it. Voila. Now you see it. There you go, family. This is the 118th show. Welcome to Black Bear broadcast. I will skip all the format, although I technically have never have done that. So if I can do with the clear speed of a familiarity. So unfortunately, black people are collectively inadequate. Collectively, black people have no friends. And constructed black man with constructed black woman makes a constructed family. Cool. Speed. Let's use the 40 values, which are discipline, dedication, discernment, and dignity. And please don't use derogatory terms when you throw a link out and we try to communicate. That's never a good idea. Remember, Black Bearman is black people having black people and black issues for Bearman. Boom, boom, boom. It's a lifestyle. Fantastic. And we're going to show videos that we don't own. Blah, 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 blah. Check out our Instagram. Blam, 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 blam. Nice. Now, let's go to today's show. Very important show. We're gonna part two half of it, to be honest, because it's a very good thing we're doing. So what is today's topic? Today's topic is, family, do non-black people get on code to undermine black reparations? Very important. There's we went on pattern because there's a UK, maybe it's LGBT, I'm not too sure, individual who went on TV. He's been said for quite some time, but he went on TV talking about undermining the African Americans' attempts at getting reparations. And we're just seeing, is that codified behavior? Where does that come from? Why does it bother someone in the UK if someone in America gets reparations? Interesting stuff. So we're going to unpack that. And also, we're going to ask that fantastic question. How can knowledge of racial whitening, a thing it is, be used to motivate black love? What does that mean? So you see there is a picture there of racial whitening. And we're saying, well, how can we use that concept to actually motivate black love? Interesting. Can it be done? We shall find out today. So what we're going to do, while I look for that and make sure my heat is on, I'm going to play some video of Douglas Murray talking about reparations, this guy, and generally black people in general in America, blah blah. And let's try to get a picture painted of him before we go to the quote that we're going to unpack. Go. Rewind.
We have 40 million slaves in the world today, which is more than there were in the 19th century.
More slaves alive today
than there were in the 19th.
So one thing you have to understand is what suspected white supremacists, or just anti-black people, or just people who don't really gel well with black people's needs, whatever, non-black people who do this, they will always try to give you they're always good at like diverting your what we're trying to focus on, and they always try to make things distant in the past, and who's to blame? Should we blame? Aren't you to blame? And this kind of stuff. This is all codified behavior, but let's have a listen.
Century during slave trade.
40 million, you said, alive today?
Yeah. I've met slaves. I've met former slaves in Africa and elsewhere. People are born as slaves. They manage to escape it. This is not an abstract point I'm making. I think that us beating ourselves up over a trade which our own country got rid of 2 centuries ago, and if anyone, we should be proud that got rid of. And
so what you notice is, even though he's talking about slavery, you understand that the Europeans were the most brutal when it comes to slavery. He'll start the narrative by talking about, oh, I've met many slaves today. That's in Africa. And by the way, it's a good thing we stopped slaves. And he'll go back to Africa, that kind of stuff. So you see, very codified behavior. Well done to him for supporting his ideology and staying on code for his ideology.
And so on. There is a significant likelihood we are not dealing with, for instance, slavery today because we're so obsessed with going over again an issue that was closed 2 centuries ago.
Very, very important. This issue was closed. We enslaved you, we raped you, we killed you guys, your ancestors. But luckily, we stopped that now. Closed. It's all good.
And it brings to mind a phrase of Nietzsche's in the Genealogy of Morals. These are people there's a type of person who tears at wounds long closed and then shrieks about the pain they feel. We're dealing with a lot of those people at the moment. They do not themselves feel pain from the slave trade. They do not feel pain from colonialism.
He won't talk about how countries are still marginalized and they haven't been paid anything. And what tends to happen when you brutalize countries is you pay reparations, and only the Black African nations are the ones who haven't received this. No, so he talks about people whining and this kind of stuff. Very codified behavior. Make note of it.
They have decided to rip at a long closed wound and then cry in order to win something, whether it's pity or money or reparations or something. Everybody would have their own view on it. But I refuse to go along with this idea that, as I say, if everybody decided to take upon themselves exactly the amount of, as I say, it's a horrible idea, hereditary sin, but exactly the proportion of hereditary sin that their own society was accorded, then that would be one thing. It's quite another thing when only one group of people, and that white Westerners, are expected to be responsible for everything that anyone who looked even remotely like them in the past did. And everybody else is not. I mean, the obvious example to give is a point that Voltaire made in the 18th century. He said somewhere, the only thing, by the way, Voltaire now is one of the many figures who's been torn down literally in Paris. His statue has been now removed by the authorities in Paris. One of the great rationalists.
So, look, what black people can, and this is very important for black people, very important, because what you have here, you have a European gentleman, and regardless of all the horrors that has done in the name of white people, in the name of Europe and colonization and all that good, all that terrible stuff there, whatever. Notice how he frames it. He's always placing Europeans in an innocent frame, and it was a long time ago. And why are these people complaining about these things, tearing down wounds? He's on code. He's picked a side and he's fighting for his side. Unfortunately, black people don't do that. So black people need to do the opposite of that. You see, need to literally highlight the challenges that black people have gone through and be consistent. And I always frame it in the opposite way of being brutalized by a wicked, tyrannical regime that hasn't, the wound that was made hasn't been healed yet. That's the kind of narrative you want to do when you're competing with people who's on code, you see. Well done in staying on code, my friend. You do your people very good.
Thinkers of French society. His statue was attacked so many times by people throwing red paint at it that it's now removed and you can't find it in Paris. Nobody knows quite where Voltaire is today. But now, part of the allegation...
I found out what we're doing. We're looking at an individual known as Douglas Murray, UK guy, and the reason we're watching him is because we're asking the question: do non-black people get on code to undermine black reparations? Now, the reason we're saying that is because in America, it's a different place from the UK. They're connected through lineage, but they're two different countries. And what's happening is in America, the black individuals are asking the government for reparations for the Ma'afa or the Black Holocaust, this kind of stuff, and this individual here is saying, no, what's going on? Well, why are you asking for that? He's not really connected, or so we might think, but yeah, he has an opinion, and there are many people of European descent who have an opinion. So we're trying to analyze: is this codified behavior? Is this everyone getting on code to undermine black progress? Who knows?
That he profited through shares in some slave companies. They forget, by the way, that Voltaire also wrote in Candide one of the great attacks on slavery. But Voltaire says in his own day, he says, well, the only thing worse than what the Europeans have done to the Africans is what Africans have done to their fellow Africans.
You see, that's very interesting. So this is another argument you have to get from suspected white supremacists and anti-black racists is this concept that you look at the whole slave trade as a whole and what it has done to people, and you go, well, what we did is what you guys did. What they're not telling you is like, and there was many complicit Africans, whatever, many, of course. But what they understand, this is a slave trade controlled by the Europeans. Chattel slavery and the serfdom that Africans had was a different thing. Not that you can forgive it, but either way, I'm saying it's a different thing. And this was at the power structure was from a European point, and many of the countries that would have sold enslaved Africans to the Europeans, they themselves were conquered and colonized shortly after. So any kind of profit they would have made or not made would have went back into the hands of the Europeans.
Is what Africans have done to their brothers and sisters. We know from the few memoirs we have of people who were slaves in this period, people like Equiano, Lauda Equiano, a most amazing man who was ended up British and was baptized in Westminster, became a free man, had a most extraordinary life. Memoirs well worth reading. We know from him, for instance, and many others, of course, that he was stolen by his neighbors in Africa. In the 1700s, a neighbouring village. They came and they snatched them at night. That's what they were, people snatchers. Right. And these Africans stole their neighbours and sold them. And
to who?
And now, what is the moral responsibility of the descendants of the people stealers? If white Westerners take some guilt, then I would like guilt from Africans as well. What do you do about African Americans who are descended both from slavers and slaves? What's their guilt?
Well, you have to define them, because if you're talking about the Africans, the African Americans, they were directly descended from the enslavers. Well, if there was a complicit behavior patterns from the Africans, they still would be in Africa now, wouldn't they? Their generation. So two different kinds of things. That's why they say that it isn't race-based, it's lineage-based. People who are directly affected by that catastrophe.
Hereditary wise.
They cash out at zero.
They would come out at, yes, exactly. The balance sheet, you end up there. If you when I was researching the slavery,
and that's what a lot when it comes to trying to get any kind of money or recompense or reparations, you will get the muddying of waters. They'll try to muddy the water with many things, and this is what you're seeing today.
Section of this book, I got into the very interesting story of the other major slave trade of the time, whilst the transatlantic slave trade was going on, which was the Arab slave trade. The Arabs had a huge slave trade that went on much longer than the Western one, the transatlantic one. It's thought that maybe 10 or 11 million people were transported across the Atlantic during the whole period of the slave trade. It's an appalling thing. It was an unbelievably horrible trade.
And that's what you're going to find from many non-black people in anything. They'll utter like terrible, bad. Oh, it's a horrible time, whatever. And then I'll move on, you see. So it's like, that's as much as you're going to get. Really.
Most people at the time didn't think it was wrong because people past thought differently from us.
I'm sending the link to Johnny Show family.
All civilizations, sadly, at that point, they'd all engaged in slavery. Everyone did slave labor.
Not chattel labor, no, not chattel slavery.
The pyramids built, the pharaohs didn't do it themselves. They didn't pay a fair day's work.
Anyway, that's enough of this individual. Let's see. There was one clip I had, but it was from a bigger thing. Let me see if we can watch the bigger thing.
people like
This one is it's not long. This is the list.
Now joining me is Douglas Murray, Associate Editor of The Spectator and the best-selling author of The War on the West. Douglas, let's start with Elon Musk's Twitter. His takeover is leading to the release of the Twitter files.
Be respected figures like Musk has been released. People will say, by the way, they say it's conspiracy in the middle of the process, and we should really
Gavin Newsom
in the mind of Gavin Newsom, who's so very few suffered.
Be jumping at that.
Gavin Newsom suffered. California wondered together, Rita, over wondered he'll float this sort of
From people who have never been slaves, maybe receiving more than 223,000.
Let's go back. Hold on. So I think I found it. This is where it's about the slave stuff. So let me go back.
Extraordinary. Now to California, and Governor Gavin Newsom there he's got a reparations task force. Yes, that's a thing. And they've come up with some figures that descendants of free or enslaved black people could receive. So people who have never been slaves may be receiving more than 223,000 each from people who have never owned slaves. That doesn't seem to make much sense.
Remember, America gives a whole lot of money to Afghanistan, to Ukraine, to Jerusalem. But when it comes out to paying for enslaving people, the whole world gets on cold.
Douglas.
It doesn't stack up, does it, other than in the mind of Gavin Newsom, who's so desperate to trawl for votes that he'll float this sort of idea out there. As you say, this would involve the people who never experienced slavery receiving money from people who never practiced slavery. I can think of very few other ways. I mean, I have been wondering, I think we've wondered together, Rita, over the years, is there anything Gavin Newsom can do to make California even worse? He's already made it into this sort of urine-drenched, piss-stained slum where everyone pays sky-high taxes and has to live in really tent city-like environments. So when we've wondered, what could Gavin Newsom do to make California even more unlivable, making people pay reparations for something they didn't do to people who haven't suffered? Goodness me, Rita, Gavin Newsom's done it again. He's come up with a fresh idea for how to make his state more of a hellhole.
And I tell you, if there are going to be any new COVID restrictions, he'll be the first one in. He'll be jumping at that because, like you said, he just looks for new ways.
Where's this quote? Hold on.
Defying people to pretend that they are. I've got a business idea.
So this is there we go. So this is something he was proposing, as maybe a joke, but there's always truth in jokes.
And personally, Rita, I've got a business idea. I'm going to go to California. I'm going to set up a totally crock business, certifying people to pretend that they are actually the descendants of slaves, so they can all get 233,000, and I can get a 10% cut. If this whole thing's just going to become the clear fraud that it is, why don't we all just get in on it?
Right, so that's what the individuals think about reparations, and they're all getting on code to undermine it and poo-poo it and that kind of stuff, right? This is the codified behavior you're seeing. Very important to understand that. That's why we always say collectively black people have no friends. If so, reparations would have been a bigger thing many years ago, but it has right now. It's not, and there's tremendous pushback. Interesting stuff there. Now, feel free to jump in. I've put the link in the forum. I'm now going to click on that. So, funny enough, the second topic, and if you got any questions on that, just feel free to shout it out. As you know, the show will be slightly short today because I started slightly later. So let's see if we can get through this. But obviously, if you will jump in, we'll extend it. Why not? So feel free to jump in and have your say. So that was the first part. The first part was, do non-black people get on code to undermine black reparations? And the answer is yes. And hopefully you guys see any of that in the world. Please make a note of it and let us know so we can do a case study in it. But you're seeing many non-black people getting together against black progress, unfortunately. Now, second topic. How can knowledge of racial whitening be used to motivate black lives? Interesting thing here. So I've been talking in a lot of clubhouse scenes lately. I should try to I wonder if I can I put a link? Hold on. That's an idea. Can I put a link of the clubhouse in here? Let me see if I can find it. I have to work it out. Welcome to the show, brother IC3.
Greetings. Good to
Greetings.
see you. You managed to get back and have the show. So the traffic and the snow must have
Yes.
messed up your journeys.
Oh yeah. I was out in a gathering, and I knew I couldn't get back. I thought if I give myself half an hour, it would work, but it didn't. So, but we're here now, and the good thing is shows are actually live, but they're also recorded, so they'll always be online for those to hear until they take it down.
Right.
Right.
Excellent.
So
Yeah, I
we're
like
now.
the way the angle you approach of the question.
Mm,
Is there a code, an anti reparations code that the white supremacists are teaching each other,
mm,
and have sets so that it's automatic. Everybody can be singing on the same hymn sheet to
yes.
try and nullify reparations, and I
Mm,
think that is definitely the case, because it does sound like there's a set chant with the same talking points
yes.
that are used continually um, against
Well, they're
reparations.
very good at deflecting, very good at pointing the finger and putting the emphasis on the victims of of colonization. It's very good, and it's the age old argument. But it's about highlighting it. So, because one of the things I'm trying to do is because the biggest challenge you're going to face when you try to get things done isn't necessarily coming from the anti-black racists, but it's coming from the unsynchronized black person, the person who isn't really consciously aware of certain things or view things slightly different. So
Hmm.
it's the feet dragging of them. You see?
Yeah, it's conditioning. It's a conditioning.
Yes,
Uh,
conditioning.
Yeah,
So you
yeah.
have to
Well,
have a strategy.
so what? So I suppose that there's a number of strategies that come to mind. There's some strategy. The most popular strategy seems okay. Um, well, let me know if you think one strategy. Some black people say, "Look, okay, it's the white people. It's because they don't understand. So they spend a lot of money writing books, doing talks, trying to teach white people, and hoping that if white people understand how black people feel, then they'll change their mind about reparations, and then they'll become more generous. So that is one strategy. So a lot of people do lots of lectures trying to educate white people about racism, and then following on about reparations. So that's the white ignorance tactic. Then there are those that are not approaching white people. They're just saying, okay, it's the black people they don't understand. They've been conditioned from school and through the media, and basically the system has put black people to sleep. So therefore, by lots of talks and lots of interactions with black people, we'll be able to wake black people up and let them understand that reparations is justified. Yep. So there's the teach white people, or wake black people up, or what other ones are there? There's um, I think that's the main two. I think.
That's the two ones. It's like, do you focus your energy on talking to non-black people, or do you focus your energy on talking to black people? I would say, as it pertains to racism, the only thing a black person can tell a non-black person or a white person is how they feel under the system they're under. But if they really want information on racism, how to do it, and how it's being practiced, the best person to talk to is the white supremacists, right?
Yes,
Because
right.
they're the ones doing it, and they're really good at it.
Mm.
And I think that's where black people get confused, where they think, the little resources we have to use the little resources to teach racist people what racism is.
Yeah, and that's a waste of energy
It is a
to
waste of
teach
energy.
them.
And that's why we have to kind of like try to fix our people group, you see. But that's there you go. Now the next question is, how can knowledge of racial whitening be used to motivate black love? What does that even mean? All right, so I was saying before that we're going to use a concept of this historical thing known as racial whitening, but use it as a catalyst to motivate what we are defined as black love. You see. So what I did is I did a whole lot of shows back in the day, and there's some really good information I used to do. But what I would do is I put it in one show, do the show, get rid of the information, and it's lost in the archives. So I went, trying to break through the old stuff, and I haven't put in proper order, so I've got to really sift through and find this stuff. But what I did find was this concept, the many concept, very nice. Let's look at this one. So basically, there's this here, and I'll use it again. This is Alexander Dumas, this brother in the middle here. He's probably maybe one of the most famous, but maybe not. The reason he's famous is because he's a guy who wrote the Three Musketeers. The Three Musketeers is what he wrote. Very successful, made a bit of money. But the reason why we're talking about him is because his grandmum was an enslaved, I think Congolese. I want to say Congolese. And she was enslaved by a very wealthy European man, and then obviously they had kids. I mean, I don't know if it's called as rape, or I'm sure that would be the case. They had a son, and the son was Thomas Alexandre and Dumas, and he's what they classify as a mulatto, meaning his parent is black, one parent is black, and one parent is European or white. And he became, at the time, one of the greatest generals in France. And this would have been at this round about the same kind of time that Toussaint Overture was doing his thing in Haiti. So it's a lot of very black, dark skinned military generals going on around about that time, funny enough. And,
fighting for France against Haiti.
Right. So this individual was fighting for France, but he never actually was sent there. He was fighting in Europe. So it would have been very interesting had they have sent him, and he would have fought against Toussaint. That would have been interesting, isn't it? A black general from France.
Wow.
That would maybe if someone wants to write an alternate history novel, you can write that. That'd be
brilliant.
Yeah. So anyway, he was black, but anyway, he then found a wife. Naturally, it was a European French wife, and they had a kid, which was Alexander Dumas, Perry, I think. Him, and they would classify him historically as a quadroon.
Right.
And he became famous. And then obviously he inherited the money. And then he had a son, Alexander Dumas Fils, I think it is. And then they classified this person as octoroon. And then he had a daughter. And then later on they had this gentleman here who was, I think, a champion fencer as well.
Right.
So I think that what we're saying is how wealth will travel back. And so technically any good thing that Alexander Dumas did and the money that Thomas accumulated and all that stuff in his family, it will always remain in the European power structure because it goes down. And today, this family that started with, as far as we're concerned, was of the Congolese individual here. All the wealth is now still in Alexandria. Now, I'm using this as case studies to show black men particularly about the choices they make and generational wealth and making institutions. If you make a black institution, there's no guarantee that it will be run by black people if you don't try to make it run by black people. And that includes if you have children who inherit it and your children follow the same pattern that you do, as in you don't necessarily think it's necessary to stay around black people, marry black people, because this is what will happen. Now, this is a European white family today, very wealthy, very successful, very good at fencing. This is there, and we also had this where we're breaking down this diagram of black, mulatto, quadroon, octoroon, and white. Very interesting diagram there, showing how it kind of works. This is a rough thing of what happens if people don't know. And then go ahead. No, go ahead.
Yeah. So what is your answer to the question? I would say there is a way, and I have the solution in mind. What was your conclusion to the question you were asking to that point? Is there a way to turn it to the advantage? Do you believe there is a way?
I do. I do. I think that what we should, and I think I wrote it down here. I want to say, and I'll move to there. Just let me skip to there. So I'll go over. These are important figures here. These are behavioral patterns that are similar. So this is so basically what we did in the past, which we bring up again, is behavior patterns from Europeans where they'll go to Canada, Brazil, Australia, and they will just kidnap children, force them to change their names, their fashion, their norms, their their lifestyles, and have them adopt European names, have them adopt into European families. And that's what I said. The citizen excuse refers to the practice that occurred in Canada of taking or scooping up indigenous children from their families and communities for displacement in foster homes for adoption. Despite the reference to one decade, the 60s scoop began in the late 1950s, not too long ago, and persisted into 1980s. There's me thinking it's old day, but it's not. There you go. It is estimated that a total of 20,000 indigenous children were taken from their families and fostered or adopted out of primarily white middle-class families as part of the 60s scoop. Native American boarding schools, also known as Indian residential schools, were established in the United States during the 19th and 20th centuries with primary objective. Let's add the welcome Empress Kush and Brother Kel while I read on.
Welcome.
Assimilating Native American children and youth into Euro-American culture while destroying and vilifying Native American culture. So what I'm trying to do is, because I'm talking about this word racial whitening that's happening, particularly to Black people, like the Negro problem, I'm showing that the behavioral pattern from the Europeans, unfortunately, is consistent throughout the indigenous peoples of the land. And the outcome is when you go to these camps, unfortunately, many of the Native Americans, they become alcoholics, unfortunately, this kind of stuff. But what you find is they long to be with white people. So even after all that, and they know it, they can't really help it. It's like they've already been conditioned in the culture where this is better than what they have. Yeah. And they know that by them picking a European partner, and they will no longer exist as an individual. Now, I haven't packed the Tasmanian sad story, but obviously Tasmania was populated by the Tasmanians, but they've all been extinct because a similar thing happened with them. It was more so actually just killing. But it's that thing. And then this example here was this is a form of racial whitening in Australia. So, and they're really showing, look, here's a half blood, which they call mulatto, which is Irish parent, and a full-blooded Aboriginal. That's what this woman here. So her mother was a dark-skinned Aborigine, traditional Aboriginal. Then her mum was Irish, and then what she did, she then went and found a Australian European, and then they had the daughter, which they call the quadroon, and then this daughter, who they call quadroon, then found an octoroon. And what they're saying is, if this individual's son then married a white person, which they did, that you can now say that what is produced is a white person, and that person can have all the privileges that white people have. And that is the process of becoming white and whitening and getting privileges. So you're seeing a behavioral pattern that's very consistent. And what I wanted to show as well, and this we showed this in the past, but this was more so in America, but I've looked at the UK facts, which I need to quantify and put it in here. But it's the same. So when we look here, they look at dating apps of what men seem to be interested in, right? What we notice is women responding to men. So we notice that every single woman wants to be with a white man, but not the Black woman. The Black woman wants to be with a Black man. That's very important. That's showing something, right? Then when we look at men responding to women, we realize that every single one of the Black men, this is America, by the way, is looking at the Asian woman for some reason. But then the Asian man himself is actually looking at Latino. So maybe there's something going on between them. There's some kind of disagreement or whatever. But then when we look down here at the lowest response, like who gets the lowest response, we realize that Black women, lowest response, we're looking at the women's this side, right? So the lowest response is Black, is Asian and Latino white men. They ignore the Black the most, while it looks like the Black woman ignores the white man the most. I think that's what that says there. While on the other hand, when we see the men that ignore the women, we know that Asian, Black, Latino, and white ignore the Black women at the highest ratio. You see, very high ratio. Yeah. So you're seeing that. I guess what that's telling us is Black women are loyal to Black men, but Black men are not loyal to Black women. You see. So that's something that, and then there's a reason for that. And I'm saying racial whitening and this kind of stuff, the process of it is a part of it, right? This is also, we also said that this guy Satoshi Kanazawa, forgive me for saying it wrong. I remember he wrote a book and he was saying views that sub-Saharan Black African countries. Oh, I think we lost thingy, poverty, suffer from chronic poverty and disease because their people have lower IQs, and the black women are objectively less attractive than women of other races. So what we're seeing that, you know, first of all, collectively black people have no friends, but you see many non-black people try to turn their racist views, their disdain into a science. You see, and there's nothing new there.
That's right.
Nothing new there.
Polish
And then you see the same Japanese American individual here hugged up with many European people, and you know, this is what I've found by my book kind of stuff, right? And yeah. So I remember we said, but yeah. So here's what I was proposing. Just so now to your question, now to what you asked me. Very good question. So I've done a little logo here. This represents a white race. This little symbol represents for the time being racial whitening. And I've said that we should reword what it means. So racial whitening, blackamento, the objective, I say, it's better to say make black people denigrate and destroy black people. So what we're saying is when someone talks about racial whitening, the best way to talk about it is actually it's a process to make black people denigrate and destroy black people. You see?
Yeah.
So that's what it actually is. That's the goal. The goal is we're going to do our job by our campaigning and our marketing and our laws, whatever. But when we stop that, you're going to do it for us. Now we saw this in the African, in the Canadian Americans. We saw this in the Native Americans, and we saw this in the Aboriginal Australians, the original, right? We saw that as in like even when you stop it, even when you go, okay, we're no longer going to actually say it as part of our government scheme, you're still going to do it. You're still going to do it because the legacy of the culture that we create, the lifestyle of trying to date up and have superior looking children, this kind of stuff, right? The ignorance of that kind of stuff. So we break down to three things. We break down to destroy the black biology, destroy the black economics, and destroy the black culture. So we can unpack that by saying denigrate and destroy black people's families, phenotype, and biology. Yeah. Destroy black economics, denigrate and destroy black people's economics and self-reliance. Very important. Destroy black culture, denigrate and destroy black people's culture and identity. Now, obviously, now we have to have a solution to these realities, right? So naturally, the solution is black betterment. So let's break that down. What particularly? Promote and practice constructive black man having a family with constructive black woman. Promote and practice constructive black people practicing and promoting black ownership and black economics. Promote and practice black culture and black identity. Now, that's the campaign I'm pushing forward. Yeah. So the idea is when we're out there and we will struggle, because what you're going to find, and maybe I should play some recordings, I don't know, of if you go into any form of room and you go, okay, guys, we're going to try to make black men love black women, you might get like a hullabaloo, overhaul, you see, and it's a lot, and it's like you're depriving people of air, and right. But what I'm liking that to is the same thing when you look at the Native Americans, the Aborigines. It's like even though they know what has happened, they can't help it. They really want to be with the white woman, and I think what that means is the white man's branding is really good. It's really good branding.
Marketing. That's right.
Yeah, the marketing is really good. And that's why we have to have the black man do the same marketing, you see. So to fix this. But part of that marketing is to reword, like to be more correct and accurate how we describe things. So racial whitening is black people denigrating and destroying black people. And we can always look, well, brother, when you do this, do black people get economics and self-reliance? No, sir. Does it destroy black families? Yes, because they don't exist. Does it destroy our phenotype? Yes. Does it destroy biology? Yes. Does it get rid of our culture and identity? Yes. So I'm saying, this, as a plan what to do about it, you see. But anyway, I've been talking too long. Welcome, brother Kel and Empress Cushy. How's it going?
Yep.
What's up, family?
Good to see you.
Greetings.
Good to be on. Greetings.
It's always good to have you.
Thank you, bro. Always a pleasure. I just want to ask you a question, though. You said that even though they know, I know it sounds dumb, but it's just not a dumb question. Do you think they're actually aware? Because we can see the same things going on over here, and when you talk to them, like you said, it's just this oblivious kind of babbling, kind of erratic
Yes.
reaction that you get, it's not like they connect the dots, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
It's only till what I have recognized though with certain black men is that the black men who do recognize it are the black men who are in those situations but are a lot older, so they're looking
Right.
back, if that makes sense. And
Yeah.
then you hear things of, you know, well, had I have known, you know, technically perhaps, you know, because the bubble of the probably the white is right is kind of popped by now. You've gotten all of the quote unquote benefit you're going to get, and also self-knowledge starts to happen in, so you start getting more aware of self, culture, history, and they tend to look back and notice a lot of the trends. Perhaps that was me, perhaps I did fall into that, maybe that's why I chose like that, and perhaps did miss out on that particular sister, or why didn't I see her as this, or, you know, they start doing some self-examining, and I see that then. But initially when they're doing the actual choosing and they're young and they're in it and they don't understand that they are under the illusion, I'm not sure that they actually recognize what they're doing. I hope
Yeah.
that's clear.
It
Yeah.
is clear. It's clear. I think when people are younger, they're in that kind of like haze. I get that. And what you tend to find when you maybe confront them then is there will be a defensive mechanism, and then they'll use the default kind of things like love has no color and this kind of stuff to justify, you know.
Yeah.
But I also feel that this concept that I'm pushing forward of this separating white solutions to black solutions is very important, because what black people will always tell you is the white man's solution, right? And what I mean by that is when you look at white people, unfortunately, who've gone around the world and killed many, they've said that, okay, this is wrong. So from now on, I'm never going to do things allegedly based upon race, right? And they put that into law and they make that their mantra, the mantra, yeah. Now it seems like black people are saying the same thing, but as we start the show with, we see how they get on code to undermine reparations. So you know that if you don't do things based upon race, yeah, the position you're in, you'll be in that way for another 100 years.
Yeah. That's right.
Yeah. So you can't use the same quote, but then what happens? They will use those same quotes and say, but you don't understand, brother. Love has no color. You see, and
Yes, right.
I was in a forum the other day, and some gentleman was saying, well, you know, if I grew up next to a woman and she's my neighbor, and we get on really well, and we get married and stuff, and what they do, they have this like this superhero kind of tale. This kind of like they create these really very peculiar storylines where they end up with a white woman, you know. Just like, you know,
Disney
what if,
fantasies.
yeah, very. It's like, you know, if there's a tornado and it took over my boat and I drowned, and then I woke up and then a black woman threw water into my head and I said, oh, but I love you, black woman. And you know what I mean? And it's like they really go to like an epic story. And I'm like, okay.
Goes
But
to
then the
a
white
real
woman came
extreme.
down. But I mean, if you follow me on Clubhouse, you're gonna see it non-stop. And I have to go, it's about to happen. It's about to happen. Here we go. And yeah, and it's like it's
It's about to happen.
yeah, but the thing
You
is
can
that's
read
why,
it.
yeah,
Oh
you
my
can.
God.
But that's the good thing is, you know, it's a pattern, and then you can obviously have counter to the pattern, right? And
Yeah.
and I keep saying, whenever you talk to black people, this is the hardest thing you might have to do, but I recommend it. You mustn't get angry. I know it's hard.
Yeah.
You must get angry.
That's right.
You must understand it. Like I said, because when we look at the Native Americans and this kind of stuff, and you find that they are trying to do that. You see, so they know they were kidnapped. You see, they know it was kidnapped. They know they've been that. But once you feed a certain narrative constantly, and then when you look back at people who conquered and they become alcoholics and they have no self-love, and then you look at the people who do it as the saviors and the correctors and this kind of stuff, it can be very devastating.
What do you think of this?
Hmm.
Right. So these are some statements I've been thinking about, and I'd like to hear your responses to this. One, there has to be, in order to be effective, to achieve what we're trying to do, we have to separate the concept of black people
Hmm.
and blackness itself.
Hmm.
because
Okay.
I'm saying that whiteness and white people, um, those two concepts support each other, but they're not the same.
Mm.
Because whiteness is a status, you see,
Yes.
and then it's also an identity, and so if there's black people, the identity, and then blackness as an asset class, as a value, um, the value is what people, makes people aspire. You see, they're aspiring to whiteness. You see,
Mm.
they're trying to be white. So it's a value that they're aspiring to. Then that value then gets filtered down at different levels. So people will say, well, at least I'm whiter than you. You
Mm.
see, whiter. And then the next point, what do you? I'm stating that there's the only type of black business, real black business, is
Mhm.
reparations. All other type forms of business only serve to support the white supremacist financial ecosystem. The only true, genuine business, as far as economics, is reparations. Because
Mm.
reparations is a direct counter to white supremacy. It's direct. It's direct.
Mm.
It's the only income, because it's drawing income and value from the system of white supremacy into another black entity, which has to
Mm.
be constructed. So it's taking from the system of white supremacy, taking value from that whiteness and white supremacy, and then increasing the value in black identity and blackness itself. But in order to increase the value in black identity and blackness itself, there has to be an entity. It's almost like a temple where that value is conserved, as it were. Does that make
Mhm.
sense?
I hear what you're saying. I hear what you're saying.
So all this thing about black business, there is no black business. The only black business is reparations. There's not everything else is just feeding into white supremacy.
Mm. But would you not argue that with black people in a wretched state, there's I guess the worst way to do it and the better way to do it and the best way to do it, right? So trying to build up your knowledge, your business acumen, and your networking to be able to feed your family and stuff is better than not doing that.
Oh, so this is, see, this is a very deep thing, because
Yeah,
we're talking about money here, you see, and
yeah.
people always think, oh well, I'm going to put food on the table. That's
I
the
will.
bottom line. Going to put food
Mm,
on the table. So that statement kind of deletes everything.
mm,
Got to put food on the table. So there's no thinking. You can't calculate. But you see, it's a lot. It's very serious. Think about it now. State your position again. State your position again. The counter.
so
Go on.
what if you have a person who says, okay, they're in they're under the system, and they make £4 a day, right? And the
Mm-hmm.
£4 isn't enough to sustain the lifestyle they need. So they want to
Yeah.
learn the particular skills of network with certain people, so they can make £50 a day, so they can have
Right.
a better way of life before they do any other kind of like bigger task to reverse anything.
Okay. So watch that. So watch this now. So
Mm,
the other very strong, what you've addressed there is a very popular. I come across that very regularly. Okay.
mm,
You only live once, so let's try and not be miserable, and let's try and make life as happy as possible whilst we're here.
mm,
Yeah. Or it's the same kind of thing. Well, okay, I admit we're in a prison cell, we're in a prison, so let's just concentrate on making life as comfortable as possible whilst you're in prison. So the counter to that is, whilst you are focusing on trying to make life as comfortable as possible in the situation that you're in, that energy committed to that, it's mutually it cancels out the ability to think and meditate about escape. See, because if you're just trying to get more comfortable in prison, right, then you really you're just trying you would like to support that, you want to be seen good, on good terms with the prison system. You're trying to make the prison more comfortable. You see that, so that's why you only by understanding it from this point, you understand what Neely Fuller says when he talks about this. Don't take holidays. It's like, what? But I need to relax. He's saying cancel it out. No holidays. It's like, what? What is he saying? And he's saying the kind of things he comes out with, because he says you're in war. You're at war. If you realize that you're in a war situation, right? That means you're constantly in a hostile environment. Your environment around you, where you're trying to raise children, is completely and totally hostile 100% of the time. Rather than there's just like when you're growing up. I heard about racism as a child, but I always thought, well, the racists, they're out there somewhere. They're individual racists rounded about, and if you work hard and keep your nose clean, you might be able to avoid the racists. Nobody taught us about the system, institutional. We couldn't understand it. We just thought we were taught there's bad apples. And you could avoid the bad apples. So I understand the point that you're making. You're on a low, people that are earning a low wage already, and they're in a tough situation as it is. Why not try and make life as easy as possible for them, because they're already suffering? And so focus on making life easy rather than taking down the system that is causing that people to be in that situation in the first place.
Yeah, but you're going to have to take down the system anyway, because even if you do focus and have a little bit of happiness, the system will destroy that. It's
yes,
like
that's the point I'm making.
It's going to break your heart. So you're going to have to destroy. I just want to say, Elder, I'll be honest with you. The elders in the 30s, they always did used to tell us about the system. I believe it's if you're around Pan-Africanism or Moorish science, etc. But I do remember they always mention that, you have to try and put down the system or destroy it. Be careful of that. I do believe, like, us as African descendants, is that some of our parents, because they've given up on hope, they don't teach the kids that the system's not for you, and ways to strategize against it. But I have to give up the elders, big up to them, that they did used to tell us.
Right. Yes. Because like you're saying, see, the concept of finance, the concept like partner and banking. You see, that way, even the poor people, because you perceive that the system is hostile and is racist, then you start to think, well, how can we survive within this system and support each other? Then you get concepts like partner and susu and internal banking, because the community realizes that finance and banking is racist. So if they understand that, they'll try and keep the money circulating within the community
Yeah.
because they understand that the environment is hostile to that community.
Mhm.
But by clever marketing, if they can convince the people, that community, that the environment is no longer hostile, and it's okay, you can bank with us at Lloyd's. We're not racist. We're doing community outreach, and we're doing we're funding projects for art in the community. We're not racist. So you can bank safely with Santander. You can bank safely with Lloyd's. NatWests are friendly to black people. You know,
Yeah.
HSBC, we're your friends. Can't you see that there's a black woman's face and there's happy black children in our advertising? Yes, we're not like we used to be. So therefore, don't avoid us. You can trust us. Bank with us. Stop this partner and susu nonsense. It's money laundering.
I just wanted to talk to the point of well, sorry, that just threw me, your last sentence, to say that a partner is money laundering.
Yes, it is. It is officially. You can go to prison for it. I think it's 15 years. I was saying, but somebody can correct me if I'm wrong. But that's what I heard.
I think any kind of collective saving amongst a group which has been adopted by other groups in their genesis of building their empire, I support, and I encourage. And I think knowing our histories, to know that with the Windrush generation, many that came over could not buy the properties because the majority of them were property owners due to necessities, because there was no blacks, no dogs, and no Irish.
Exactly.
So themselves actually build up their initial wealth when they were collectively on code, some would say, through means of such partner. And a partner concept came with them from the Caribbean. So this is their own culture, their own laws, and it was only no means for malice. It was only means to help collectively. So we need to just make sure that we keep that kind of narrative in order when it comes to us, and how we do it. Yeah, but I was gonna say on the why is it, what do you call it? Because I'm on my phone today, so
Racial whitening.
yeah,
You mean yeah.
yeah. I think on that it's to just to follow on to the question that I gave to you, or the analysis of what I've noticed in regards to men who tend to go into racial whitening, and your response to that. I do think that the way that you are showing the imagery of this is brilliant. I think the only way to tackle the racial whitening that we're having at the moment is to effectively show that this is not something new. This concept of Disney and is a constant, and the way that you show it at this point, you've given us imageries of different melanated people from around the world who have gone through this. I love the one that you did recently just now of the French family as well. And I just, when I was listening to you, what prompted me to really want to jump on was because I just had an epiphany. I just think that this is like Europe's little secret, and it's like its dirty little secret. And I just think we know this anyways, but we are amongst all of these people that have been in the elite. And this is when this ties into what I was saying, is that you're actually showing that there's nothing new under the sun, and this has been going on for before time, this is how they erased us. And I think you've given us facts like this to show how easy it is, and especially in regards to where this wealth is going, especially now when most men are money, 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 you know, get rich, die trying. You know, you're doing all of this wealth, and look where it ends up if you keep down this track. It's just, I just think it's just exactly the way that they need to see it. So
Yeah, no, definitely. And I'm trying to use, because obviously one of the challenges we talk when we talk to black men, unfortunately, is they might try to go, well, what about black women? So I know this is a very controversial view to an extent, but what you tend to find is the motivations of today for why a person goes to a non-black person is different for the sexes, and you tend to find, and I could be wrong from this, from what my research is, black women try to still have that sense of collective black pride and black progression whilst they're with a non-black person.
yeah,
While black men tend to abandon it quicker. The people can also give different analysis. You see, but some people, from what I've observed, and also when I debate, just how the black woman who is dating a European man or white man will respond versus a black man. And also, what we have to remember though is we do have to remember that the attack on black men is much more severe, and that's something that we also have to put in the case study as well, like how black men are attacked and stuff.
yeah, I think
But
that
it is
in the case study for real, it'll be good to see the breakdown of that. But I will say that, you know, I've definitely was of the same thinking as well. But that doesn't stop that doesn't go against the fact that they are still with a person of who is not of the same race. And what I've since gone to realize is that a lot of women who tend to be dating people outside of race, but still have a strong black first kind of interest, do what I might think maybe it's just human condition, but they do tend to lean on the benefits that they get and then come back into the struggle. So I think it kind of reaffirms why it has to be a clear-cut rule of, you know, black first, B1 first, constructive black man, constructive black woman. You know, that is so clear why that has to be done, because in this struggle, it's not about having one foot in and one foot out and then talking to the masses. It just doesn't make any sense, and I just recently seen that just reaffirmed. So yeah, I just wanted to share that. But I definitely think that the reasoning is different. I definitely think that a lot of the women will openly now say that, you know, if they had the option of a black man, they would have. You know, these are clear differences that get said. But I have heard other black women recently say things such as, well, you know, you should have stuck it out. You should have holded it out. You know, you go through the struggle together. So it's been very interesting hearing the conversations move forward in regards to this, and looking at the data and having a level head when looking at it. So yeah.
What do you think is success? What is it? What can I hear your versions of success? Because you know, successful black man or a successful black woman. So obviously, a man looking for a woman and to work together to achieve success. So what is that vision?
It's constructive black man for a constructive black woman.
Okay.
Yeah.
And and what exactly? So it's not. You didn't use the word success then.
No,
is that right?
No, no, no.
You don't
It-
believe in
it's-
success.
That
It-
doesn't mean
it's-
that we don't believe in success. It's just
The quote I
I'll
think
let you
Sister
go.
was reaching for was this one. Hold on, it might be here. So when we start the show, we say constructive black man with constructive black woman makes a constructive black family.
Right. And
That's
and
what-
what is the construction? What would they have constructed? Another black child and with a not mixed race.
Well, not
Is that
really,
the construction you're talking about?
No, really. So what we're saying is, if you want, if we talk about how do we make a constructive black family, well, we say a constructive black man with a constructive black woman
Makes a
will make a
constructive.
constructive black family, right?
Right.
And
Right.
Basically, this is what I'm saying about a talking tactic, where if you're trying to highlight that you're trying to say have black men love black women, just say you're trying to do that. What will happen is you go, yeah, but what if the black woman's a violent woman or on drugs? Or what if she it kills you when you sleep? Or what if the black man is an alcoholic? This kind of stuff, right? So you go,
Yeah,
okay,
yeah.
we're trying to make constructive black man be with constructive black woman. And then that eliminates all of that, the kind of troll superhero scripting that goes on.
Right. Yeah.
Do you understand?
Yeah.
Because it's
Yeah.
like I said, it's if you do case studies in other people groups, when they stand up and they say we have to, fix marriages, fix a thing, they'll never bring in non people outside the group into that marriage equation, and they'll never try to create scenarios where they not end up with each other.
Yeah.
I think I showed this in one of my case studies where Jewish men in Israel would walk down the street with sticks and they'll beat any Arabs who are looking at their women, and they'll go, yeah, we don't want. And this was a regular thing. It would happen like. We're trying to make sure they don't think they're ever going to marry our women.
Right. Right.
And obviously, we could do a case study on, unfortunately, what happened in America where they killed the young boy,
Emmett Till.
Emmett Till, yeah, and that started from him allegedly whistling at a white woman. You see, and what we can say is today that white woman is still free. You see,
Yes.
and the men who killed her were never jailed, right? So what I'm saying is, this is what we talk about, like the difference between a conquered people and a conquering people. You see, and we're trying to find methods to reverse the mindset so we don't keep on participating in behavior plans that doesn't work in our collective best interest.
You know what,
Right.
brother? You know what? I'll be honest with you. When it comes to the black man and the black woman, we have to make the black woman an object of desire.
Of course.
And the only way for us to do that is that she must tap into naturalness. Because if we're selling a product, and I'm not trying to make the black woman a product, I'm talking about her image to lure everyone back in, right? There's too much competition due to those that have character assassinate. So if you hold your ground and you distinguish yourself from the other products and remain natural, then naturally everyone's going to want that product. For example, lately you've seen a lot of non-African women braiding their hairs up. They're in the different colors. They're doing everything. And it's because the black woman has become natural now. You see, if all black people were to have on their TikTok account, Facebook, an image of a black man and a black woman naturally, dark skin, light skin, 2 light skins, 2 dark skins, or dark skin, light skin. If that was like that all the time, and whenever the black man is with a non-African woman, the community has a code of conduct with the face expression of showing disgust. If that movement was to happen all the time, me as a black man, we know already what we're like. We want to flash the woman we got. But if you're being shone all the time on the TikTok, on these panels all the time, and when you're walking, eventually you're going to submit. The reason why it has to be that way, brother, because if we attack the black man in the wrong way, remember the unsynchronized one, they're already looking to connect with white supremacy. So to them, it's like, okay, whatever. I'm with the non-African woman. I'm going to get appreciated, which is not true, but that's what the goal is. But if we were to have that object of desire for the black woman, project it all the time, constantly, like an advertisement every 2 minutes, whether it be social media, etc. They'll run back
Okay, can I challenge that? Can I challenge that?
if you want.
Okay, this is how I'm going to challenge it. Black females keeping their hair natural, it has an economic impact, and I think it's the money is where it's all at, because if they're trying to get a job, yeah, to save money, to pay their rent, to pay the hire purchase, to pay their bills, they're trying to keep their job, right? They're really looking, they're trying to have a look, an appearance, and a dress style and a hairstyle that fundamentally gives them job security. If when they go to work, the boss says, you know, or even at school, and they don't like the natural hair, then it's having an impact on their career prospects if they're not looking right. You see, so it actually starts. It actually starts when they start trying to earn money, and the job requires a certain look. So as she's trying to earn money and have job security, she's going to be pushed to straighten her hair. And if she doesn't want to straighten her hair, she's going to have to put wigs on so that she can fit in. And the more she fits in within the work environment, the more stable, the more chance of it she'll be able to hold on to her job and pay those bills. So, which I think is the primary impact on relationships. So it's not the black male and the black female looking good and looking correct for each other. It's the black male and the black female looking good for employment, and then that employment then impacts on the home life. That's how I see it. Would you who do you all disagree with that view I just presented there?
I only disagree with the fact of the naturalness. What I'm referring to naturalness is that because the African woman is the original woman and knows how to make her hairstyle very diverse, she can pick a certain particular style. If she has to maneuver in a non-African people's institution that will suit that for a period of time, and then she can build up her business, hopefully the community or a guy that she's married to will help her with that, right? So it's not necessarily that she cannot adapt. It's to do with is she's going to become unsynchronized by allowing her hairstyle to be defined by non-African people and then not getting out in time. However, that should be the black man's role anyway, because she should not be in those institutions anyway. Do you understand?
Oh, you're dropping some bombs there. Wait a minute. Can the black woman, the black female, really wear natural hair or make her hairstyle? I don't think so. No. If she's going into work with a scarf or a hat or trying to hide, no. They don't like it. They won't like it.
Well, I think
what did you say?
Let me mute myself.
What was your response to that? I'm saying it cannot be, unless they shave off their hair and put on a wig. It's the only way, because they're expected to have wigs that look like straight hair. That's the only way to hold down job security. If they're trying to look natural locks and stuff like that, and then put it in a scarf, that's still gonna no. There's no executives, no black female executives with those kind of hairstyles, natural hairstyles. Never see. I haven't seen any pictures like that. If you want a good job, top job, you're gonna have to get rid of the natural. That's the message coming from the white supremacist system. It's too much pressure to expect a black woman to remain natural and hold down a career at the same time. That's horrendous violence.
Okay, Brother Raven, we
Hello.
can't hear you. Okay, we
Can you hear me?
Okay.
Yeah, I pressed the button and it just went boom.
Okay.
I could
I thought
tell.
you wanted to say something, brother. That's why we didn't say anything.
No, yeah. If it happens, you can just carry on. I think what's that woman who talks when you press something on the Mac? The cyber woman. I forgot her name.
Oh,
Shiva, something like this. She was asking me what do I want, but when she did it, it muted everything else. So I hope you didn't hear all that stuff of me going quite mad at it. But yeah, carry on, go ahead.
Yeah, I will say that I believe that what Brother Cal initially said is correct. I think that constant images and propaganda, which the powers that be are using now, is a necessity, and the base should be of the black woman. Like that should just be the base of that, and we've all discussed that about that before. We've had some really good in-depth conversations to why that's necessary. But I do also believe that while that's happening, because that's unconsciously happening, like what we get fed with the media, the songs, the images of interracial dating, the images of black and violence, we know how that reflects to other communities and how they then assume of us. So I do believe that propaganda is needed, but that's, like I said, it's a subconscious level. Whereas I think simultaneously, Brother Raven's images to make understanding of what they're seeing is needed as well, because even though we're bombarded with these imageries, people are not aware of what it's doing to them psychologically. So it's understanding where people are starting from and understanding the kind of knowledge that they need. And I think that the way that we have to get around our people, there is not one way. It needs to be a holistic 360-degree imagery battle to uncondition the brainwashing that they go through. On the back of women and in working, women can absolutely work with their natural hair. And there's plenty of women who have taken high positions now who are natural. But there is still the case that majority of the women do feel that they might have to assimilate just to get their foot in a door. So, for example, either having a weave or a wig or something that's quote unquote pleasing to the eye to secure the interview. And once you've secured the interview, then you can revert to type and do whatever you want, because at that point it's against the law to let you go on the back of a hairstyle. So black women have been doing those kind of politics from the beginning and are constantly doing that now. And that obviously does so much battles day to day. It gets the workplace comfortable with looking at women with natural hair. So perhaps the next lady who comes for an interview and shows up with natural hair is not so much of a shock or a horror to them, because they've already got a few sisters working with them who have natural hair. So these kind of little wins are constantly happening within the workplace. I think what you were speaking of, IC3, was the case of before for a lot of black women, but now it's definitely shifting, and there are a lot of black women now who are wearing their natural hair in work, and who are in high levels, who because of the natural hair revolution have learnt ways of keeping their hair in professional styles, and look immaculate and smart and professional and just smashing the game. So yeah, that's my thoughts on those pieces there.
Okay.
So one thing I'm showing here as well. So obviously when I got, I do recommend also talking in public or talking in digital space to hear the average everyday thought process, so you can see where people's at. And one thing that I notice is when I talk to certain black men, it could be seen as problematic when sometimes maybe some black men go on a rant. Hold on, so that's my clubhouse. And so for example, I remember like someone would we would be talking about black love or whatever, and then someone would want to go, I love, white women are very beautiful. I love them; they're very beautiful. But I know I have to have a black woman, and it's like the way they're wording, even then, is somewhat problematic. You see, I think how we speak publicly is important. So I remember this is a few months back. This is all very rollback stuff, but what I was trying to break off here on the screen is saying things like, rather than someone say love has no color, right? What might be more beneficial is, even though that's what they might think, is if they confess something like, well, I don't know who I might marry, but I understand a black woman would be better as a wife for black betterment purposes. Yeah. So it's almost like, regardless of what they say, they end up with a black woman. Does that make sense? There's an understanding that a black woman is the primary choice for the black man. So regardless of how people want to word things, rather than saying anything else, like even things like my preference is a white woman, it's somewhat problematic from an optical standpoint. And one other thing I was going to push forward as well is how we react to each other when we're around each other, or when someone does something that works in our best interest. I think there might be a value in us complimenting them. So if Brother Kel, when I say if Brother Kel was to go and say, brothers, I think that if constructive black man marries constructive black woman, that's beneficial, and I think we should be dedicated to that. The way we agree with brother, that's an amazing idea. That's really good. Like, I agree with that. That's very beneficial to black people. And we talk about
affirmation. You mean? Affirmation.
Yeah,
So
but as
when
in
somebody says something good, you say yes. Yeah.
But when it's towards collectively black people prospering,
Right.
and the reason is because what tends to happen, and I'm sure you're aware of it, is the black person who's talking about black constructive love, black constructive everything else, could end up being the bad person in the room.
Exactly.
By the way they react. Yes, you see, by osmosis.
Yes.
So
yes.
And you know what Brother Kel was saying, like you're trying to make a brother feel foolish for doing certain behaviors, whatever. We're the same thing. You're making other people feel a certain way. Like, okay, these people are saying something, and everyone agrees with it, and they're constantly saying the reason I agree with it because what you're saying is good for black people, and I really appreciate that because I'm a black person. And you're speaking for something that's good for me. So I appreciate you and I appreciate what you're saying. If we had a culture of doing that, then the trolls and the would feel much more uncomfortable to jump in because they realize that actually they're highlighting that I am the issue here. You see?
Yeah. Can I back that as well with the fight against when Rome was fighting against Carthage? Yeah. What they did, I heard that the greetings, like we say, oh, good morning or good evening or hi, how are you? The greetings was Carthage was full. Every time you meet somebody, Carthage was full. So rather than good night, no, Carthage was full. So what it is, that was charging up the whole Roman community to fight against the Africans and to defeat Carthage. And I think that's more or less the same kind of thing that you're saying, in that it's a constant mindset. You're reinforcing the mindset of the mission, of the overall mission.
I think Empress Kushti wanted to say something there. Is that correct?
Yeah, I was just gonna say, I think sometimes it depends in the environment that you're in. So if you're in a forum of like-minded people, I think that the silence kind of echoes something actually the
Of course.
opposite. It kind of just lets you land because you've eloquently said it. Do you understand? And it kind of the only person who will speak right now is the individual who has
Mm.
a problem with it or who wants to
Yeah.
counteract it. And I think at that point, other people can just come in who agree, will say, well, no, actually, the brother has a point. So I think it definitely does depend on the environment of where you are.
True.
Depending on how that action can be perceived.
Yes.
Yeah.
So what let me expand more. It's more so if you find yourself in an environment where a sister or brother is constantly talking about black people being constructive and moving forward, and they're bombarded with a whole lot of like
Nice.
naysayers. Yeah, and oh,
Exactly.
what you're talking about? Oh yeah,
Yeah.
let's marry a nice black man because they're everywhere out there. Oh, black men
Yeah.
are great, aren't they? If you get this kind of stuff going on, then what happens is that if they keep doing it, what they tend to do is that they're painting the picture that the person who wants to be constructive and help black people is mad. You see?
Right.
Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's
That's
what they
right.
do. And they all
That's
get
right.
on cold. And then it then becomes a laugh fest. So what you have
Yes.
to do is the constructive brothers and sisters have to work together to highlight what's happening, but in a way where you use compliments. Yeah. So you say things like, oh, this is great. The fact that you're speaking for black people, we're collectively inadequate, but yet people like you come forward and you're inspiring me to come forward, and I'm with you all the way of this because I understand that by us doing this, this is how leadership works, this is how management works. We come together, we do something. We don't give excuses, we just do. And like you talk back and forth that kind of way. and this is why I would say like because there's I always try to what I'm
No,
gonna do
but
now more. Go
yeah.
ahead.
Sorry, I hear you on that, bro. And you're absolutely right. But I almost think it's like I'm looking at the individual who sets up that kind of arena.
Yes.
Do you understand? So I'm just kind of like, for me, it's like if you're facilitating that and you see what's happening here, and you're right, it's literally all the naysayers. It's like pantomime. It's like
Yeah.
all the oh no you don't come at you at
Yeah.
once. Yeah.
Yeah.
It is, and I've noticed. I remember at school, you'll have someone that's very good at dissing, and you'll have the one who laughs loud, right?
Yes. Yeah.
And you'll have the one that will say little bit of things, like it's almost as if it's like a rabbit punch. We need black people like that when it comes to defending the black family. To the extent that on Synchronized African will say to himself, if I am around with my non-African woman and any one of those Synchronized African decide to laugh in a way that lets us know, like, what the hell are you doing with her? Or say something, I'm going to lose my mind. It has to be something like that. It has to be like a pantomime, as what Sister Kushtu is saying, a show. Like, oh, you're with this person, are you? And that, oh, well, you've not here for the black family, are you? And make them feel very bad and pick at them bit by bit. They'll crumble, you know? They will literally crumble, because I've had conversations with I've never ever been with a non-African woman before in my life, right? But I've spoken to some of the African descendants who have, and they'll say things like this: is like, I don't like the way how our people looks at me when I'm with a European woman, or if I'm with the Asian woman, they just don't like it, and they will literally won't go to the spot where black people are. It becomes like a thing where they have to hide. And that's very interesting, valuable information, because we all want to be validated as human beings. We want to belong. So if you like, shun them out, then psychologically they'll understand. Don't wash my dirty laundry around synchronized African people. If that makes any sense.
Yeah, exactly. So this is what I'm saying to the point of, if you're hosting something like that or setting up an arena for the individual who is talking sense and almost allowing a whole bunch of naysayers to jump on to the point where it's not even proportion. I'm kind of thinking that you're using the message as content, or you're using the message for clicks, likes, views, and PayPals, or you're using the message for your own benefit or for entertainment purposes, and not for what it should be respected and reverenced as. And so I then question the individual. So if I'm looking at that, am I going to jump on and support that? Maybe sometimes I will, because, you know, some things do need to be corrected and yeah, they need to be shut down. But other days I might be on a different mentality and think, well, that's just going to give you more content for what you were doing. So I dabble back and forth on it, and it's more about overseeing that, yeah, you know, I'm looking at the dynamics here, but I'm looking at who's um like orchestrating it as well.
Do I hear that?
So
I'll say this.
I'm a bit out of. I'm not quite following you all on what you're talking about.
Let me
Are you
show.
talking about the
Let me show.
dramas? You mean?
Yeah. Well, let me unpack and make my sense. So I think for what we're talking about is, for example, if you have like a clubhouse space or a Twitter space or a debate space,
Right.
and what you might
YouTube
set up
space.
a
So
well,
I
you
was just
might set up
YouTube space, like any dynamics that is just for group conversations, like
Yeah, a
say,
stream. Yeah, running a stream.
yeah.
Yeah. Okay. And
So, no, what I was saying this before I answer you, bro, free, just to, and I say to everyone, you should always be comfortable when you're in any space, and if you ever feel like, for example, if you see people attack a certain person, you never have to feel like you have to jump in, because, for example, me personally, right, I'm kind of built for this, and and it's like I can take hundreds of people saying one thing towards me and carry on, right? So I never feel like I would need anyone to then jump in front of me and take that, because I'm built for it. But what I'm saying is, we can build a culture of when it isn't like a complete hyena kind of stand, whatever, where we let people know that what that sister said there about black men loving black women, I like that. That makes sense. That's constructive. I'm for that. You know, well, we need more like that. As in, like, you create this kind of yeah vibe,
No, I
right?
hear you. You're
Do
creating
you know
a
what I
culture.
mean? Yeah.
Absolutely.
Because what's happened is they're creating the no vibe, and I suspect the love has no color was a yeah vibe. Do you know what I mean?
right.
And
Yeah.
and our job our job is to reverse that. So when people say, like, love has no color, you go, aha, but black love does, and it's black.
Yeah.
You see, and you keep on having
Yeah.
these responses. So the yeah vibe gets countered.
Yeah, it's true.
Yeah?
It's true.
Yeah. You see, you're trying to counter the concept.
You're attacking the
Yeah.
moral high ground, or you're changing the moral high ground.
You're controlling the narrative. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I recommend that everything we do is always do that. Like, and that's why what I have to do now is I always have to explain why I do things. Before, I used to think that because I was for example, I was in a clubhouse with a wonderful sister the other day, and I was saying well, when I start my shows, but unfortunately black people are collectively inadequate. And I break down what collective means and inadequate means. And naturally, there was what I suspect will happen is, like, you get one person going, "What are you talking about? We were kings and queens, and we controlled the world, and they're the ones who's inadequate." And which you should suspect there. And then you'll get the person to go, "No, man, that that you're going to deflate black people and you're going to make them cry and so forth." And I said, "Okay, let me give you the motivation behind the statement, right?" And I said, "Here's the example: you're in your house, yeah, and your children and possession in the house. You leave through the front door, and you see there's a fire right outside your in the bush, right? What do you do?" And she goes, "Well, I put the fire out and save my family." I go, "Aha, cool." Scenario 2. This, rather than leaving from the front door, you leave from the back door. What do you do? Do you go to the shop, or do you come back? I go, "No, well, I go to the shop. Innit? Why would I come back?" But the fire's still there, but you can't see it, right? No. So by not knowing there's a fire, you don't do anything, right? So what we're trying to do is by acknowledging that collectively we are underdeveloped. Yeah, we struggle with certain basic concepts of how to unite and do things for self. By knowing this, yeah, it makes us do things. But the next chess move, which is what I put here, which is very important, and this, so we can really break this down. Hold on, where's the last script? Let me just make sure I've got it. I read it here somewhere. Yeah, this one. So when I talk and I talk about, I always say, just so you know, family, even though I'm talking to black people, there's only one type of black person I'm speaking to. You see, and there's two types. There's the conquered black person and the conqueror black person. Right now, the thing with this, yeah, is I'm trying to talk to the conquered black person who I'm defining as a person who, when they hear a challenge, they rise to it to work with other black people to find solutions, right? I am not talking to the conquered black person who, when they hear things, they crumble up or they try to deny it's there or they try to undermine the progress of fixing it, yeah, because of fear. Now, I haven't identified who is who. The group I'm talking to, they need to identify who that is. If the person who starts speaking starts saying, "Oh, well, it's not going to work," "Oh, there's nothing bad," "Oh, what's going on," "Oh, we can't do nothing," then they have identified themselves as the conquered person, right? So then what we do is we minimize trolling and negative naysayers by allowing them to group themselves using speech. Does that make sense?
Oh, well, I love that. Have you done that yet?
Of course, and it always works, and it always will work
Ah,
because
I need
they
to
group
see that
themselves.
one.
yes,
That's a new. I need to see that one.
of course. But what I'm saying is, this is what I'm saying about the things I write down. It isn't just done like for clickbait or for wow factor stuff. It's like there's the actual like step by step way to get black people to work with black people, and sometimes it takes 3 steps, not 1 step. You
No,
see?
absolutely. You're very methodical in it.
Yeah.
And I understand that there's a reason behind it. I don't doubt that. And I know it's a reason to help us. But I'm also aware that with us, we are getting less and less having a larger attention span. And because we're very sensitive, and that's just what I was going to say to you before, that I think the realization of the word snowflake is definitely started to believe that that's a real life thing, and you have to tread very carefully. As an example, you said when you started off, you couldn't even finish your first sentence of black people being collectively inadequate before. Do you know what I mean? They all just lost their heads. So I understand that, but I'm just saying that for me, with knowing all of that and knowing all the foundations there, I just think this is a very interesting way to grab our people attention, because I think the old ways, or the ways of old, as all of us have said, is just not worked. So yeah, I just think that it'd be interesting. So that's why I said it like that, just to, disclaimer there.
And this is the good thing about being salesmen is when you understand the salesman and the saleswoman, they know how to captivate your attention. They
Exactly.
know how to trigger your your chemical reaction, your dopamine, everything, and they will have you there for like 2 hours, and you've bought everything, and then
Exactly.
they'll leave you, and that's
Yeah,
what I like
but the thing is, brother, yeah, the thing is, I think that whether you understand it and you speak to the point, I think that it gets it gets some people don't understand it, who are
Of
not
course.
of that awareness.
Mm-mm.
So I've noticed that, even though where he's speaking to the point of certain things, they'll just hear, well, what do you mean you're selling to the people? Or what do you mean black people are inadequate? And do you know what I mean? They're very literal on every word and choose to find the negative of every single word of that sentence that you've said. They listen to counter attack than to listen to understand. So
True, but
yeah,
sister,
it's
I'm glad you noticed that. And what I'm saying is, sometimes when you go in certain spaces, you realize certain brothers and sisters who are regulars, and they do same with the speakers corner days, the regulars, right? So you could do a case study of yourself, like, okay, when these people went in and they start speaking, they were constantly interrupting and shouting at a very fast ratio. However, when this brother or this sister came in and said these things, it minimized what they said because they were confused. They didn't understand. Okay, how can I get around this, right? And that's why I've noticed that when I go into forums and there's certain behavior patterns of attention-seeking black people, and their attention-seeking method is be loud and say something slightly offensive, and hopefully someone reacts, and then now the conversation is about that offensive thing, and that's what I keep saying. When you're in those places, don't fall for that. Yeah, be very mindful and kind. Another method I haven't written down here is a very important method, and I say this: whenever a brother or sister talks to you, the reason why you should never mistreat them is because they could be one of the 3 C's, all right? And that is confused, compromised, or crazy. Now, the reason why that's important, because once again, you're putting the power back into them. Because they're saying, look, I'm trying to help black people and you're shouting and screaming. So there's only 3 C's I can really break down. You're either confused because why would a black person shout at me when I'm trying to help black people? So you must be confused. Or you've been compromised, meaning someone who hates black people has paid for you to cause the confusion. Or maybe you've been so abused by white supremacy that you've just gone completely cuckoo. So these are the 3 kind of things I always push for. And then once again, you're presenting a paradigm and you're letting them pick. And you go, the reason why I'm never going to get angry at you, even though you're shouting at me, brother or sister, is because I understand you might be one of the 3 C's: confused,
that's right,
compromised, or crazy. So and if you are confused, I have to show kindness. You know what I mean? If you're compromised, I have to show caution. You see what I'm saying, right? Yeah. And if you're crazy, I have to show care. So it's all that kind of stuff. Yeah. This is the science of how to minimize someone from just causing complete confusion.
Yeah.
But I think the main way to do that as well. I was just going to say that I think the main way to do that, though, is to cultivate the environment yourself. Yes. I think once you're in somebody else's domain, then you're obliged to go by their rules and whatever chaos that they let into. You're in their house. So you have you have no right to question them. But if you create your own house, then you cultivate your own culture and then you move forward. That doesn't mean to say that you don't invite these people with this mindset in, but you now have a set of like-minded people around you to cultivate that culture instead of every single time starting from scratch on that culture. But that's just because of my personality and my mentality.
Yes,
I'm not fit for that. Do you know what I mean? So
no, and that's why. And before Brother ITV jumps in, there are positions in teams, right? So it wouldn't be your position to try to go back and forth with such people, right? Hopefully people like myself and some others will jump in when they see that you might be in a compromised position and someone's trying to get you to do something that is in your best interest. Someone like myself and others will jump in. My brother Kel will jump in. My brother IC will jump, depending on the roles we want to play in that particular environment. Do you see what I'm saying?
Absolutely. It's definitely about knowing your position. I agree.
Yeah.
It's warfare, So because I was just thinking as listening to all of you speak that there's a strategy when you're speaking to an individual within an environment, and then there's a strategy where you're speaking to all those other individuals, whether they're for you or against you. So it's tactics. It's tactics. Either it's a close combat, one-on-one battle with an audience observing, or it's getting your point across. Wow, it's a lot going on there. It's a lot going on. You have to, it's going into a battlefield. You have to be well organized. Like you're saying, it's social engineering. It's social engineering with your preset tools and weapons for
But I
the
also
fight.
think that people get worried when they hear code or move in a certain way that requires responsibility or self-regulation or, do you know what I mean? Anything that requires a bit of work, they just automatically have a counter argument for it. It could be something that just makes sense. It could be something that's great for you. It could be something that will be great for your future. Even if you're like totally self-individualism, it could be something that, you know, that could be great for you. But if it means aligning to a certain way, and that means that that person has to adhere to that and take responsibility to that, it's just like their instant knee-jerk
It's
reaction.
true. It is true, sis, and this is where I always get a bit shocking and stuff when I say certain things. But through many years of observing, I've realized that it's a perception of the person asking. So for example, I gave the analogy about the multi-layer marketing stuff, right? And like where when you give the illusion that anyone can join and we really want you because we really need you, whatever. When you give that illusion, then you set up for people trying to tear it down and who are you? Oh, why do I even care about black people? Oh, go away. Who are you to even give any advice? But then if you go, listen, I'll be honest with you, I've learned the particular things, I've been in it for a certain amount of time, and I want the best. I want the best black people to join it. Once you say it that way, then it's almost like, oh, okay, well, what do I need to do to join? And then it's like, well, what makes you think that it's it's a very skillful place to join? Like okay, maybe I've got skills, maybe I can join. And the psychology changes. You see, you create something that people want to join, but they might not be able to.
Right,
yeah?
right.
Yeah.
And that's what I do when I go into these forums. So I use very controversial terms that I very do mean, and I say, just so you know,
Elite.
guys, yes, I am an open door elitist. I say, I'm an open door elitist. They go, what's the, and they go, oh, you're like the talented 10th. I go, almost, but not like that. Let's break it down because so let's break it down like this, right? I'm saying that there is a benchmark of people who want to practice utility and unity, all right? And when you meet this benchmark, you can join the open door elite. We're not closing the door. We're not saying you have to be rich or born into royalty. We're saying you have to be dedicated and skillful. You see? Right? So when you start saying things like that, then it's like, okay, then when they start doing things and you go, well, what skills do you have, brother? Because one of the main skills is unity, and you're not displaying that at the moment. You see, you can really pick them out, like, you know what I mean? You see, and so also when you start talking about learning things, people get defensive because and they go, well, that's because I haven't been to college or uni or whatever they think is the most higher education, right? And you go, however, there's two very important skills we want. One is utility, where you actually learn the craft that's going to benefit black people. But what's more important than utility is unity, you see? The ability to want to be around black people and help us. And that's worth more than anything. And if you can't even practice that, then you can't be in the elite. You see, you flip on its head. You find ways to delineate, but you have the door open, you see?
That's right. Yeah, but I think what you're talking about is these are standard models of organization.
Of course.
Been going for centuries. I mean, any successful organization, they follow the rules that you're talking about. You just can't just walk in there. You know, if it's a church or whether it's a temple or whether it's Freemasons or whatever it is, or royalty or whatever, corporation, that's how an organization holds itself together and functions.
And that's why when I'm talking and I'm saying, and because obviously what will happen is you can't speak for black people are not a monolith, black people from Africa, they say all this kind of stuff, right? You go, oh yeah, but I'm not actually talking about black people, I'm talking about black betterers. So what you're saying is I'm talking about a black person who thinks a certain way, because as you know, a black person might want to blow up a bridge. That's got nothing to do with me. I'm saying, what about the black people who want to help black people, who we identify as black betterers? You see? The ideology of helping black people with black people. So I want to work with those people. And I'm also calling them the conqueror class, you see? The conqueror class, not the conquered class, but the conqueror class of black people I'm going to introduce the conquering class to black betterment. You see, so I can work with them because they practice utility and unity, and so do I. And we're going to help black people with skill. But the other people who can't practice that, I'm not interested. I'm going to help you by osmosis. Now, the reason I say it is because when you talk about open door elitism, people go, "Oh man, you think you're better than us? Oh, you're like everyone else. You're going to get rich and leave us behind." Go, oh no. Here's what it is, right? We're going to help you by pro bono. Yeah, as in, if you need my help, here's some advice. We're going to change the way people view black people, and that's going to benefit you. But you cannot be in the management class. You see, you cannot
Yeah.
be here making decisions because before you've even entered the room, the things
Yeah.
you're saying isn't in black
Yeah.
people's best interest. So we're
That's
going to
just
help you
human
by
nature,
osmosis.
man. You just got to be a
Of course.
bit snobbish.
What
Because
I'm
people
saying
hate
is,
it, but they
this
love
is
it.
important. Of course, yeah, of course. You see, once again, if you go there, you say, black people, we've got this great thing coming. Please come join us. We want to help black people. Let's hug everyone. They go, you're an idiot. Who wants to join
That's
you?
right.
You're apparently black people are stupid. They go all down it. But if you go, it's a limited thing for only the best of the best. Then
Exclusive.
Yes, exclusive to the finest black people. Then you get a different thing. So this is the kind
That's
of
right.
and that's why I say whenever we're in public and they say, okay, well, I only work with black veterans, someone goes, yes, he's talking about me because I love black people as well. He's that kind of stuff, right? So it's like it goes, is any black veterans in the room? I'm here. Okay, we know. Well, you guys, we're gonna try to make an institution. You guys can't really join what we're doing because you need to practice the 2 U's and you haven't practiced that yet. So we're going to do our thing, but we'll help you by osmosis, which is how we show how we love black people. You see, so it's that way of doing. That way, you literally will shut down 90% of the trolls. 90%.
Right. Yes, it's a proper. It's a good strategy. It's a good strategy.
If brothers and sisters might follow me on Clubhouse or anything like that, or Speakers Corner, just observe the rooms that I go in beforehand and see how people communicate. Because I'm always listening, speaking and seeing how they speak and how long it takes them to get to somewhere versus when I go in there with that as a strategy. So I'm saying you go in there with that as a strategy, okay? And then what you'll realize is you'll drastically minimize the confusion and shouting and cussing and stuff. You see? But there has to be a time, and this is the hardest thing you're ever going to have to do. And I'm not saying everyone should do it, but do not swear and mistreat other black people. Do not curse. Do not respond. Because that will be the topic. That will be the topic.
Right.
Yes, that's right. They'll switch to that.
They'll switch to that. You called me a big head, and then it'll be like a 2-hour meeting about big heads and stuff.
Wasting life.
Yes. So that's why you have to be able to take it, innit? Yeah. And I'm happy to sit down with you and give you step-by-step plays that I use when. So, for example, that one thing, if I go in a forum, so there's many different types of black people, but there's also the black person who's constantly looking for division. So if you're light skinned, they'll pick up. If you're dark skinned, they'll pick up. If you're from Africa or you're from the Caribbean, they'll pick up. If you have an accent, they'll pick up, right? So for example, they go, oh yeah, well, you're a light skinned man. So what do you know? So you go, listen, brother, we love your dark skin. Yeah, it's beautiful, right? Matter of fact, when it comes to having melanin, I'm going to give you the melanin medal. You have more than me. You come first. The only problem is we don't have any gold mines. So let's work for each other to get the gold mines. See? Give you the melanin medal. So you're constantly compliment. You never insult, and you take it and you transfer it into something you're doing. Yeah, you're constantly doing that. The reason they say this is they're trying to trigger you so you can say, but you're dark skin, but you're Nigerian.
Exactly.
You go,
waste the conversation.
Give me for Caribbeans. And then you have forums about, do Nigerians hate Caribbeans? And it's like, really?
Waste of time.
Oh no. So you don't want to go there.
Yes.
Yeah.
Keep it on focused.
Yeah, focus.
Yeah. Focus on constructive.
Non-stop constructiveness, right?
Yeah.
Well, family, we've hit our 2-hour mark, it looks like, on there. And you guys have been great. So any kind of last words you'd like to have?
It's been a great one. And glad that you managed to set up the show despite the difference. Yeah, great.
Yeah, I would like to say that all non-African people are synchronized in disrupting the liberation of African people. It's a great title, Brother Raven. And we need to analyze. They're more synchronized and we're unsynchronized. Why they are synchronized? Because they're collectively. We're unsynchronized because we're disorganized. But
Yes. And before Sister Kush jumps in, just to add to your point, this was the one clip we were going to show of how a UK homosexual suspected white supremacist, I assume, gets on code with an issue that's happening in America. So this is about reparations. It's about a minute long.
So I've got a business idea. I'm going to go to California. I'm going to set up a totally crock business, certifying people to pretend that they are actually the descendants of slaves, so they can all get 233,000, and I can get a 10% cut. If this whole thing's just going to become the clear fraud that it is, why don't we all just get in on it?
So that's just showing you how they get on gold in that. And Empress Kushti, any last words?
Yeah, that was wow. That was another great show where it was a pleasure as usual being on the panel.
Family. Until I was gonna say, like we were saying, like down to Carthage. I'm now every time I leave, I'm gonna leave and greet everyone with the saying Black Bearman. So until next week, Black Bearman.
Black
Black
Betterman.
Thank you.
Okay, that's right. Something needs something like that. Something always greeting continually on it all the time. Yes,
All the
Black
time.
Betterman.
Black Bearman.
Take care.